Hi, Dr. Lee. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have to say, I have been so eager to talk to you. And when we started more about in 2017, so it has been an absolute real treat to have you here with us today.
Well, the pleasure is mine too. Looking forward to our conversation.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's start from your childhood. As you may know, More Science is on a mission to inspire young girls and young career women in science to by sharing stories of remarkable scientists like you. So we like to start with your childhood. So I want to go back to China, where you spent your early childhood. So kind of describe to me your childhood. What was life like there? And how long did you stay there? And how was the schooling, the education, and anything that you feel is really impacted you today as you're looking back at that experiences?
Yeah, Sarita, thank you for asking. Part of that is written in the upcoming book, The Worlds I See. I spent a chapter talking a little bit about that. So I was living in China till I was 15-year-old. I came to New Jersey, but the first 15 years of my life, I was living in a city called Chengdu, China, which is a inland city away from the coast, but it's a very big city. And I come from a very normal middle of the society kind of family, my parents and me. I was the only child, and go to school, parents both have work. My mom was a teacher, and I guess my biggest memory of my childhood really is a couple of things. One is I did like STEM science. I knew I kind of just got fascinated by nature and science and enjoyed just pondering about what this world is like. Especially my dad is a very curious person. He likes nature, he likes bugs, he likes animals, and we would just sometimes go to the park and something, and so I think that instilled a sense of curiosity that still is with me till now.
So you would say your parents and especially your father had a big role to play in nurturing that curiosity. Because I believe children are born curious. We as humans are curious by nature, but keeping that going throughout. I just look at scientists as grown-up curious children who are always curious about the questions they ask. So it's nice to hear that theme go through, that you have parents that nurtured that curiosity. So tell me how yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So tell me about your schooling. Like how were you as a student?
So I was in the normal system, in a sense. Start school when I was 6 and went through elementary school and middle school, and after middle school, just shortly after high school started, I left China. So I think I was a good student. I don't think I was a model student, in the sense that I was a little bit out of box sometimes and not totally following rules, but I wasn't I think I was a good STEM student, and teachers did notice that. And after elementary school, I went to a middle school in my city that is known for a very good STEM education. And I think one thing that really captured my imagination, I don't remember, maybe it was 7th grade, possibly 8th grade, but maybe 7th, is physics was introduced as a subject.
Okay.
And that really was like a light bulb went on for me.
What was it? What was it about physics that captured your attention so much?
So I always liked math, But when you combine that computation and quantitative thinking with just questions of nature, of the universe, what are forces, how stars move, why a boat flow in the water, what's the smallest, atoms or smallest particles. All this is just fascinating, and it extends the world that meets your eye on the surface, right? It explains how the world is, or so I remember I loved physics.
Wow. I believe it's also, at least for me, I remember I was briefly introduced to physics, where there was a period I really enjoyed it before it got too overwhelming for me. I think it was that I now had a way to explain how things work, why things work, right? Why things move and why things suddenly stop. So you eventually came to America as a teenager. Now, I haven't gone to an American high school. I have not had my education in America, school education. But I know enough about the school system here to know that it can change your life in good ways and bad. And so for for a 16-year-old, I believe you came to America when you were 15. For a 15-year-old Fei-Fei Li to come from China and end up in a school at Parsippany, New Jersey. What was that experience like? Please walk us through.
That was a huge change. That was more cultural shock than I had. When you're 15, you don't really think too much till you landed in the situation. Especially my parents took me to New Jersey. It's not like I was planning it. But to begin with, I barely spoke English. I had a little bit of English education, but it was so minimal. I would say I hardly know how English was, there's just no. I immediately got into the so-called ESL classes, so English as second language classes. It is overwhelming. I didn't know how to navigate the school. We never had lockers in China, and now I have to deal with lockers, and books are heavy. Every class is an English class to me, because even if you go to, say, I was good at math, right? I go to math class, I pretty much just don't understand what the words, right? So, and the culture was very different. But in the meantime, my family and I were focusing on survival of immigrants. That's a very, very different world compared to even my classmates who are just living the more normal life.
You have friends or teachers who you feel really helped you get through this period of your life as you were, as you say, surviving and trying to make a life and calling America your home now.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I could have survived without my teachers. I think, this is what I appreciate about America and being an immigrant. Parsippany, New Jersey is not a particularly glamorous town. It's just a very normal town. It's also Parsippany High School is not, it's not a magnet school. It's not a famous school. It is just a very normal public school. Yet the teachers were so devoted, and they were so willing to help me, from my ESL teachers to my subject matter teachers. I had physics teachers who were, encouraging. I had history teachers who were encouraging. Art teacher, but the most important teacher was my math teacher. His name is Bob Sabella, and Mr. Sabella, as I was calling him at that time, kind of. I mean, he's always like that. Not just with me. He takes care of students, and especially students in needs. I find myself just going to his office more and more, to the point that my last year in high school, I placed out of all the classes that Parsippany High School could offer of math. So he created a class for me, just a one student class using his lunch hour. And I would be, doing I remember it was BC calculus, and I was just hanging out and doing my BC calculus by myself in his office and asking him questions along the way.
Wow. That's the importance of teachers cannot be emphasized anymore. And this is such a
Yeah.
great example of that. And you have talked about him a lot in the book. So it's nice to hear that. Uh, so after your high school, you went to Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
So you came here just a few years ago to America, and you got into Princeton, one of the most coveted Ivy Leagues in the country. Uh, and not only that, you got a scholarship, a full scholarship, to get it to study there. You then went on to get a PhD at Caltech, which was also supported with a fellowship. So, my question to you is, how did these scholarships, how did you go about getting them? How did they really impact your career journey? And what guidance would you provide to, the young scholars who are immigrant scholars who are looking for such opportunities?
You mean the scholarship opportunities?
Yeah.
So a few of the more impactful scholarship, I actually would give us the credit to one of the very early one was a high school scholarship called New Jersey Governor's School. It's a publicly funded program for students to attend summer programs in local colleges. It's not college class, it's just on college campuses, and the teachers will build a program for 4 weeks. It was selective. I went to the science camp for 4 weeks. I would say that was really, I would have zero means to go to any summer camp.
Right.
I would be working in Chinese restaurants and all that. But having that exposure, meeting college professors and fellow students, that was really, and with that kind of fellowship was really special. Then and then at the end of college, there were a few opportunities. One is National Science Foundation Fellowship for graduate students. That was deeply, deeply impactful for my ability to go to a PhD program, right? Concurrently, I was also selected for the Paul and Daisy Soros New American Fellowship, and that is specifically designed for children of immigrants or immigrants themselves. And I guess I belong to immigrant themselves category, but it really is to try to support America's next generation leaders in different disciplines. And there again, these fellowship, I meet my fellow, my fellows who come from such incredible journeys of life, and also that fellowship gives us a sense that this new country embraces us, encourage us. So these are really important support system that I'm very grateful for.
Wonderful. And as somebody who has had these opportunities, what advice would you give to young scholars who are actually looking for those? Where do they turn to? Do they go to their schools and universities, or there are other opportunities where they should look for leveraging these?
Yeah, so one thing I learned along the way is to learn to be self-resourceful. There is a lot of information out there and people out there willing to be helpful, but you have to put in that willingness and effort to look for it. For example, your college offices, whether it's career offices or departmental offices or scholarship offices, have a lot of information. And I remember I had to look for that, right? And learn about it. And I mean, nowadays everything is so digital. There's so much more. Yeah, there's so much more ways to find that information.
Right.
But start with being resourceful yourself.
So go after what you want, right? Really find the ways
Yes.
to get to it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So moving on, like we are coming into your time at Stanford. You were one of the few women in AI in the early 2000s. What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how do you think the women in STEM today, what are the challenges they are facing? Are they different? Are they the same? And how did you navigate them?
So as doing science is not easy, just like any other job. Even with passion, there will be and is always many challenges. As a student, you have to go through a grueling training process. You know how it is to get a PhD. Long years, the publication, and then in that science career. So from that point of view, the predominant challenges is really just the challenge that all of us as scientists have to face is how to do good science, how to overcome, all the obstacles that are laid in front of you in your process. Of course, in hindsight, especially where I am today, I become more aware of the representation issue. And when you are relatively, few and sparse, there are added challenges. I talk to my women students, I talk to my students of color, and the lack of role models is a actual issue. For myself, when I'm in the middle of doing science, maybe I didn't feel that way. I was focused, but I did have moments where I go to a conference and meet women faculty from another university, for example, and I find that inspiring. I actually would, if I have the opportunity, talk to them and learn from them, and those moments, it makes you realize, oh, it's still not the norm, to be a woman scientist in a hardcore STEM field. But in general, I remained very passionate and focused, and many of the challenges are just challenges for being a scientist.
Just one more challenge to overcome.
Yeah.
No, that's very wise advice. And I think it is looking very encouraging nowadays to see that all these efforts and all the work and all the representation that we see is moving the needle a little bit, not by a whole lot, but there is some change, and it is very encouraging to see that happening, especially in the tech fields. So I'm happy about that. So
Yes. Yeah.
so you are a pioneer of AI. You were there. You are what we would call the first generation of AI researchers. So where you see AI is today, and where do you think it'll go in the future?
Yeah.
What are the opportunities that you see, okay, as women and underrepresented minorities, like where do you see, like we need more people, we need more representation in these places? That's only then can we really say that we are sort of tackling the issues around biases of AI technology that we are hearing a lot about in the news. What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, believe it or not, I don't consider myself the first generation of AI scientists because this field has been around for about 60 years, um, even a little more than that. Alan Turing
Yes.
dared humanity to build thinking machines in the late 40s, and the first generation, well, it is what it is. They're called founding fathers because in that cohort there were no women. They started this field back in the late 50s, 1950s. So, but you're right in a sense that I'm still considered a very early generation because the public awareness of this such a powerful field is only came about in the last 10 years. And it's also pretty much the first time AI is reaching to the mass. And of course, we're speaking less than a year after the release of ChatGPT, and that was such a public moment. So I do recognize this is an inflection moment of the technology. It really definitively went from a niche lab science to a horizontal technology that would change the future of human lives and human work and humanity's just socioeconomic structure. It will be impacted when there is such a profound technological progress.
Did you anticipate it? Did you feel that it was obvious this was going to happen?
Absolutely not in this kind of time scale. So, I got into this field because I thought it was fun. It was my personal private curiosity. And frankly, my PhD started in year 2000. Nobody knows what AI is. I didn't even bother to explain what AI was to my friends or family because it's just too niche for anybody to care. I did not realize less than 20 years, into my own journey here, it has becoming such a huge transformative force.
Exploded. The field's exploded.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I didn't predict that.
So how do you explain your work like 20 years ago? How did you explain your work to your parents and your friends? I mean, as it with most PhD people, they're like, there's no way. I'm not even trying to bother explaining my work to my parents. But how did you explain yours?
Well, I'm lucky. I work in a field that began with mimicking humans and human intelligence. So that's a little more tangible for a layperson, right? If you work in like abstract algebra, that's way harder. Yeah. So my sub area of AI is vision, is seeing, and humans happen to be the most incredible seeing machine of the universe we know so far. And seeing is not just sensing light. Seeing is really making sense of the visible world. And you and I open our eye, we see everything. We see our home, we see our office, we see the mug we want to drink from, we see a cute puppy, we see those people are in love, we see there is someone who might be, want to like cross the street when I'm parked at the intersection. Like seeing is deep, and making sense of seeing the world is what visual intelligence is about. And this is what my area of AI is to make computers see, to make sense of what it sees and close the loop by after you see, you do things, you see the mug, you reach your hand and drink from it, and that's what I do.
Yeah, ImageNet is the work that you were involved in. I remember watching your TEDx talk, TED talk, and it was probably my first introduction to what AI and vision really means. And I love the fact that you used cats as to start your studies with. So that was very entertaining. So To everybody who hasn't seen that, it's a must watch.
Thank you.
So throughout you've been very vocal on the importance of having human-centric AI in the technology itself, right? So how now that you see where AI is, what are your like a few thoughts on how we as humans can incorporate that or be mindful of keeping AI technology and keep it advancing with an eye on humanity and preserving
Yeah.
that.
So, I have believed technology is a tool that human civilization continuously invent to serve people. And the relationship here is very important. I see it as a tool, and it should empower people, it should enhance people, and it should not take away the intrinsic humanity and dignity and agency of humans. And because of that, when I see how AI is transforming to be such a powerful technology, I think we need to put a stick on the ground and talk and call it what it should be, which is it should be a human-centered tool, human-centered AI. And that's why Stanford launched under me and my colleagues the Human Centered AI Institute back in 2019. We want to really put a focus on the human aspect of this technology. It's not just the science itself being inspired by humans and brain and cognitive science, but it's also the impact of this science, which is social, which is, ethical, which is, there's so many aspects of it, political including. And it's also what is our guiding principle? And our guiding principle is to use this to augment humans, not to replace humans. So all these are different aspects of human-centered AI.
Perfect. That's a great way to end this. But before we go, I have 3 rapid-fire questions. In the true spirit of this interview, I actually asked ChatGPT to give me 3 questions that I could ask you. So, what is your favorite AI-related movie and TV show? Just one word answer.
Oh, wait. I do have an answer. For kids, Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6, love it.
Because that is it gets a little crazy at the end with the flying robots and all that, but the spirit is a benevolent robot.
Perfect. What's your go-to book recommendation for someone who's just trying to get into this whole world of AI, doesn't really know much about it?
Okay, well, I'm going to be self-promotion on my book.
I have your book right here, and I have to say, this is, as somebody who really does not understand the technology world, but understands the science, understands nature, understands life, and how we live on this planet, I would say this perfectly captures that, and it's a great book. I do agree with your book recommendation. One last question: if you weren't an AI researcher, what career do you think you would be in today?
That is such a hard question because that's all I feel passionate about. So when you're that passionate, it's hard to think about an alternative. I don't know, animal zookeeper.
Perfect. You and my kids alike. That's the only option. Thank you, Dr. Li, so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It's been a true honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.